computer. Okay, and good evening. This is the final class that we're going to have for the Hazel Park Amateur Radio Club's technician course for winter of 2021. We are going to have office hours this coming Sunday, just in case somebody does have questions. We're finding that not too many people are having questions, but this being the last one, you might have. One nice thing, you might see Marty over here, KE8REV, got his license. And my daughter, who hasn't shown up yet, yeah, my daughter who hasn't shown up yet, also passed her exam yesterday. I don't think she is getting her call that fast.
She take it in person?
No. Yeah, she's she took it online, and
okay.
You get to a point where there's Emily. Okay, you get to a point where you run screaming out of your away from your computer. I got to take that test. And that's what happens. I'm very happy that people are starting to get, well, they know enough now. Everyone knows enough now to be able to get a passing score. And then I'll do a little research, try to find some radio clubs that are not too far from you, and we'll go from there. And I
think I have one in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of you are going to be honorary members of 1-year members of the Hazel Park Amateur Radio Club, if you can get there.
Jerry, I hard during the week for me to get there.
Saturday.
You're taking it Saturday?
I'm taking it Saturday. Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
Very, very, very good.
High percentage this time, I think.
Yes. It looks really good. So,
Jerry,
who was that?
Jerry.
Yes.
Bob Rainbow. I actually passed the class on Saturday. I'm still waiting for my license number, Robert.
Yes.
Got a
Hey.
25, unfortunately, so we just missed it by 1. So we're going to retake it in like another week or two, something along those lines.
Yep. That's
great,
awesome.
Great.
So close.
What we should do, I'll send an email out there. Maybe we'll have a reunion in a month.
I would like that.
Yeah,
and we'll see who's where, and and any questions. The big questions are, now that I've got it, what am I going to do with it? And
that's a big question.
Same.
Yeah. It's I don't know. No disrespect meant, but you've seen dogs chasing cars. What does the dog do if he catches it?
Right.
So,
so
anyway,
now that I got this thing, whatever.
Yeah. So we'll figure out some any little problems and stuff you might have. And I wish we could all wrap ourselves around the cloak. The FCC, Congress passed a law that says that amateurs can have towers for emergency service. It's not as well known, but the American Radio Relay League has a staff of lawyers. Usually you can contact them in your local area, who can give you ideas how to talk to the zoning board and stuff like that. So anyway, without further ado, why don't we start with Bob, and we'll get these things rolling. I'm going to drink a little more of my gin pole.
Oh, what's a gin pole?
Well, you'll hear all about it. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, well, tonight we're going to finish up on chapter 8, which was operating regulations. Then we're going to we're going to do chapter 9. Now, like Jerry has said in I think the first class, is that the subject matter we cover in the tech class, it's a mile wide and 1 inch deep. And boy, do these last 2 chapters resemble that. In fact, it's almost a series of factoids rather than a chapter full of in-depth material. So I'm going to blow through the review pretty quick for both chapters, and then what I'm going to do is we're going to actually go over the questions and talk through the questions, because I think that's the best way. To talk through the questions, not just to look at them and try and memorize it, but to talk through them a little bit is probably the best. Some of them don't require any talking through, but some do, and we'll get to that. Okay, Jerry, am I on share?
You're on share.
Okay. Well, let's go for it.
That's pretty good.
All right, we're gonna talk about interference. Now, you read in the chapter that they talk about two general types of interference: the natural, essentially static, that you get either from things like the weather or from appliances or other RF emitting devices around your house or outside, power lines and things like that. We talked about Q signals before. The difference natural signals are referred to as QRN.
QR Nancy.
Okay. And interference caused by other radio signals, either intentionally or unintentionally, is referred to as QRM. Now, you don't, for the tech exam, as I recall, those questions aren't specifically asked, but QRM is something that you will get used to. You'll get used to the sound of that particular acronym. Okay. Yeah, in the QRM, it's not just coming from outside, but it can also be generated inside your own receiver. Now, one thing when you get equipment is, as they say, read the funny manual.
Wow.
Because
sacrilege.
Because you know what, it's like you can cause yourself and other people a lot of heartache, a lot of headache by not knowing how to operate your equipment properly. Now, interference, that QRM we were talking about, can be either unintentional, just either sloppy operating performance, or your equipment isn't hooked up right, or you got a loose connection, or it could be intentional. Intentional interference is it's a no. Don't do it. Okay.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. One thing that most hams will do on HF, if they get onto a frequency and start transmitting, they will first say, "Is this frequency in use?" And because someone might be skipping over you, you might be causing interference to the fellow that the guy is talking to. So you never know. Okay, back to you, Bob.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. And something we're going to be mentioning several times, I think we've already mentioned it several times through the course, is that, the airwaves, we don't own the airwaves. And just because, you can get on doesn't mean that you don't own it. And if you're interfering with someone else, you need to settle it, hopefully amicably. There's a lot of bandwidth. You can move, they can move. Politeness, even on the radio, goes a long way. Politeness and understanding. Okay, willful interference. That is intentionally causing interference. And yeah, that can become a legal issue. ARRL, I know they used to have observers. I believe they still do.
They reinstituted them over the last 6 months.
Okay, so, and they're out there monitoring for people behaving inappropriately. Okay, preventing interference, again, common sense and courtesy. Remember, nobody owns the airwaves. You can always change to another frequency if you and another ham are interfering with each other. And and as I said before, know how to operate your equipment. Nothing. You need to start with equipment that's properly installed and, tight connections, well grounded, that goes a long way. Okay, now, actually, last time we talked about the two important concepts of control operator and control point. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. This is important stuff, and there are questions on this. Okay, the control point is where the control function of the transmitter is performed. Now, this could be you sitting right in front of your transmitter, pushing buttons and twiggling dials. Or you could be doing that over the internet or over a telephone line, many, many miles away. In fact, even a couple of states away, in which case the control point is where you are, not where your transmitter is. Okay, important point. And aside from local control and remote control, there is also the concept of automatic control. And that's where the control of the transmitter is handled by software and circuitry. Okay, now someone's got to be in control of the software and circuitry, but the actual minute-to-minute control is done not by human intervention.
That's sort of like a repeater.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. A control operator is always required, even though the circuitry and the software is doing the actual control. The control operator is responsible. That means, like the control operator for the repeater, he's in trouble if something goes wrong. Okay. Repeaters, auxiliary stations, space stations, beacons may operate under remote control. Of course they can, or automatic control. Yes, of course they can. And repeater users are responsible for their transmissions through the repeater. Now, this means, like if I'm operating through Jerry's repeater, and although he's the control operator and he's the main dude, me as a licensed operator, I am also responsible for anything that I put out over the air. Okay, so if something goes, if we start doing bad stuff, we are both responsible. Okay, prohibited transmissions. All right, first off, you are required to identify yourself. Always, always, always. Now, the requirements, I think we mentioned those last time. You must, and again, the funny thing is you are not required to identify yourself at the beginning of your transmission, but you are required to identify yourself every 10 minutes and at the end of your communication when you're ready to stop your communication with the other person. Okay? So, unidentified transmission is not giving your call sign. You must give your call sign. False or deceptive signals, also encrypted signals, those are prohibited. That's a no-no. Yes, you may not use someone else's call sign. Okay. False distress signal. Yeah, calling a false SOS.
There have been cases of that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But that's just, yeah. Who was it? False signals they're bad for everyone. They're just bad for everyone. You hear enough false signals and you stop listening to them. Who was it? Was it Aristotle who said the reward for the liar is that he's never believed even when he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, obscene or indecent speech. Yeah, it's funny that I teach this because I have had a slip or two.
Man.
Well, yeah, sometimes, we've talked about repeaters and how sometimes you think you key up a repeater, you talk, and then you get off. And sometimes you think you've gotten off, but you haven't. And you're still transmitting. Yeah, that's not good. But anyhow, indecent speech is bad. Don't do that. Music, yeah, this is amateur radio. It's not broadcast radio. No, you don't play music over the radio. All right. Also, of course, like we said, this is amateur. We don't get paid. No commercials. You can actually, if you are selling a piece of your ham radio equipment, you can talk about that on the air. You can offer it for sale on the air, as long as that's not your main business. You know, if you're in the business of selling, secondhand radio gear, then no, that's a business communication that's prohibited. But just a ham hobbyist, a radio hobbyist, you want to sell your gear to another ham, that actually is okay. But other types of advertising or soliciting business or doing business on behalf of your employer, that's a no good. Okay.
So does it have to be radio gear, or could it be, my son's selling his bike or something?
Yeah, it's supposed to be radio gear.
All right.
Right.
It's supposed to be ham radio related stuff. Yeah.
Well, Bob, when you run the Sunday net for the Hazel Park Club, isn't there a time near the end where what do they call it, a cork board or something? That's where people will mention, I've got such and such for sale, and contact me. That's about as far as it goes.
Yeah, we haven't done much of that lately. They're just for some reason I know we were doing that a while ago, but haven't been doing it much lately.
We need a swap. We need a swap.
We need a swap. Oh God, we need a swap. Okay. The one exception they make, and this actually shows up in one of the questions, is that a teacher, say a high school teacher, if they're teaching a unit about ham radio in their classroom, well, they're getting paid for their work, but that's totally okay. That's completely okay. They can do that. And they also say clubs may employ an operator with restricted hours. This would be things like the ARRL, who hires people, and what they do is they do code practice. They send out Morse code at different speeds. They have a schedule. They do it at different times a day, and they have a slow code speed and a medium and a fast. The person that's doing that does get paid for it, but that's an exception. Okay, no encrypted transmissions, absolutely not, with the exceptions of radio control. So your little drone that you want to, yeah, your little drone you can fly, and space station control, of course.
Now, there's one thing. Encryption doesn't include the usually used ham radio digital signals, PSK or PACTOR or AMTOR. Those things can be used by anyone, so that's not considered encrypted.
Yeah, because anyone with a reader can read those things. So yeah, that's not encrypted. It's just digital. Okay, no broadcasting. And again, the exception here is code practice, which happens, ham-related bulletins, and this comes out of like ARRL and other places, and then retransmission of space station control communications. And remember, we're talking about space station. We're talking about anything that's orbiting, 50 kilometers. 50 kilometers above the Earth, which is about 30 miles. So we're not necessarily talking just about the International Space Station, but any flying debris that can transmit that's 50 kilometers up. Okay. And there are special circumstances for emergencies. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. There's not a question about that. So that was the end of 8. Tell you what. You know what? Let's do the questions for 8 at this point. That's 8. And where am I? Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up. I'm pulling up now. Here we go. Now, let's see if I can get rid of this. Give me a little more. Now, you notice the version I pulled up.
G.
Yeah.
Just a guess.
Just
here. I
saying,
haven't read it yet. It is not
I
all
tell you,
of the
I tell you
above.
why I do this. You know what? Because I want to kind of move this along briskly, and so I want to talk you through these things rather than spend the time having you read through each one of them and read through all of the wrong answers. Some of these we'll get through very quickly. Some of these we'll spend a little bit of time on if there's some reason to. Like this first one, when is an amateur station permitted to transmit without an operator, without a control operator? That's never. There's no discussion there. Who must designate the station control operator? The person that has a license for that station. All right, that's not. There's not much gray area there. And what is an amateur station control point? All right, remember
the
this
control
one.
is.
Yeah, it's where the control function is performed. Okay, it's not necessarily where the antenna is. It's not where the radio is. It's not the mailing address of the station licensee necessarily. It's where the control function is performed.
Where you can push the button.
Yeah. Okay. What determines the transmitting privileges of an amateur station? Okay, the transmitting privileges. This is one of those questions that's easier than it's, or at least as easy as it sounds. The station belongs to the one with the license, okay? And it's the class of the operator license held by the control operator. The control operator. Now, I am a general licensee. But if Jerry comes over to my place, and Jerry is an amateur extra, and I tell Jerry, you are now the control operator, then all of a sudden he can transmit using his privileges instead of just mine. Okay, so it's the license of the control operator, no matter whose equipment it is. Okay, when under normal circumstances may a technician class licensee be a control operator of a station operating in an exclusive amateur extra class operator segment of the bands? Never. He can't be the control operator. He can be an operator if there's a control operator with an extra class license, but he can't be the control operator, okay? I know we talked about control operator and control point last time, and then again this time. It's an important concept. You see how many questions could be. Yeah, there are a lot of different flavors of questions they can throw at you. You're probably going to get one, okay? When the control operator is not the station licensee, right? And this is that situation where Jerry's at my place and he's operating on my equipment. So he's the control operator on my equipment. Who is responsible for proper operation of the station? Okay? And in this case, it is the control operator, Jerry, and me. It's both of us, okay? It's the station licensee and the control operator. Both equally responsible. Okay, who does the FCC presume to be the control operator of an amateur station? And they presume it's the station licensee. Okay? If nothing else, with nothing else to the contrary, okay? What are the FCC rules regarding the use of the phonetic alphabet for station identification? This is one, we've talked about it before. Don't forget it. The phonetic alphabet, the Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, it's encouraged. It's encouraged. It's not required. All right. And it's really encouraged, especially if you start communicating with foreign stations, because foreign stations, other languages don't necessarily pronounce our letters. They're not our letters. Other stations don't necessarily pronounce letters the same as we do. Right. I mean, you get to Spanish stations and B and V are going to sound very, very much the same, whereas Bravo and Victor sound very, very different. Okay. When may an amateur station transmit without on-the-air identification? Okay, and this is what they're asking for here is one of those exceptions. And then when transmitting to control a model craft. Okay, so yeah, to play with your drone, you can transmit without on-the-air identification. All right, when is an amateur station required to transmit its assigned call sign? Remember this one. I know you look at A at the beginning of each contact. Actually, no, you're not required at the beginning. But yes, every 10 minutes and at the end of the transmission. Okay? This is one of those, just learn it. All right, which of the following is an acceptable language to use for station identification when operating in a phone subband? Yeah, that's English. Yes, you have to identify in English, even if you're talking to a ham in Mexico. All right, what method of call sign identification is required for stations transmitting phone signals? And remember, if you're on phone, you're talking, you're going verbal, you can still identify using CW, right? So you can talk and, but give your call sign by CW instead of phone. Either one is fine. Either one is fine. Okay, tactical call sign. When using tactical identifiers such as race headquarters during a community service net operation, how often must you transmit your station's FCC assigned call sign?
The same rule as before.
Same rule as before, yeah. Every 10 minutes and at the end. It's the same.
It's interesting they flipped the answer, but it's the same answer.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Tricky.
Yeah, they
tricky.
switched it.
It's the same.
Yes, remember the answer, not the letter, because you know these are the questions. These are the questions, and these are the alternative answers, but they're not necessarily going to be in this same order.
But they flipped the wording too. On the other one, it said every 10 minutes and at the end of each communication. This time they said at the end of the communication and every 10 minutes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's kind of funny, but it is the same content. It's just
Yes.
Yeah.
This next thing we didn't talk about very much. In fact, I don't think we mentioned it at all. But these are self-assigned indicators. Okay, which of the following formats of a self-assigned indicator is acceptable when using phone? And any of those are correct. Now, say, for instance, if I were to take the extra exam and pass, and my call sign showed up on the FCC database, and I was allowed to use the extra call signs, I might identify myself as N8REL/AE, acting extra. But I could say /AE, slant AE, stroke AE. Any of those things are fine.
In Morse code, it's dotted and dotted.
Let me write that down.
Learn Morse code first.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Jerry, spell it for him. Okay, which of the following is required when making an on-the-air test transmissions? Yeah, just give your call sign. That's all. That's all you need to do.
You don't need to call the FCC or anything.
No.
No.
So
Just
funny.
Try to make it as short as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. When is willful interference to other stations permitted? Never. Come on. Yeah, come on. Never.
That's a no-no.
Okay. Which of the following applies to two stations transmitting on the same frequency and interfere with each other? This one is another easy one. This one you should actually just know common sense. Yeah. Common courtesy prevails because no one owns the frequency.
But it's mine.
No.
You can't make me. You can't make me. Go ahead. Make me get off. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Which of the following restrictions applies when non-licensed person is allowed to speak to a foreign station using a station under the control of a technician class control operator? Okay.
So that's a third party.
There's a lot of wording there, but it's all the same. The answer is the same no matter if it was a technician, a general class license, or an extra. It doesn't matter. The foreign station must be one with which the U.S. has a third-party agreement.
That non-licensed person is considered a third party, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So hence there it is, third party.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now in doing this third party communications, the third party's not always there. They're not always present. You could be, delivering a message for someone else. Okay.
Right.
What is meant by the term third-party communications? And that's just a message from a control operator to another control operator on behalf of another person. This is one of those where the answer seems too simple, but that's what it is. All this other business about 3 stations and transmitting equipment licensed, it's all nonsense. It's just one operator to another operator on behalf of a third party who may or may not be right there. Okay, remote control operations. Which of the following is an example of automatic control? Yes, repeater operation. Okay. The rest of these, this controlling a station over the internet, well, that's remote operation rather than automatic. Okay, those other 2 things are kind of out of the ballpark. Okay, which of the following is true of remote control operation? Oh, Marty, you already took your test, so you don't need to know this. Okay, but what's true of remote control operations? The control operator must be at the control point. Yes, the control operator is required at all times. Yes, the control operator indirectly manipulates the controls. Well, yes, that's the definition of remote control. So yes, all of those are correct. All right, which of the following is an example of remote control as defined by Part 97? And remote controls operating a station over the internet. That's all. Repeater operation, remember, that's automatic control. Okay. Who is accountable should a repeater inadvertently retransmit communication that violates the FCC rules? All right. And that is the control operator of the originating station. Okay, got that?
I pity the poor control operator who has the midnight assignment on our repeater.
Oh. Okay. Prohibited transmissions. Okay, what, if any, are the restrictions concerning transmission of language that may be considered indecent? Yeah, any such language. Yeah, don't do it. That's an easy one.
Bob, don't do it.
But Nike told me just do it.
Yeah.
Okay, when the amateur radio operators use their stations to notify other amateurs of the availability of equipment for sale. When the equipment is normally used in an amateur station and such activity is not conducted as regular business. Yeah, this is what we're saying before. Amateurs can sell their equipment if it's not their regular business. Okay? If you have an eBay store selling, all kinds of used amateur equipment, then you know what, you're kind of in business, and that's a commercial communication. But just from one ham to another, yeah, that's fine. In which of the following circumstances may the control operator of an amateur station receive compensation?
Drinking.
Yeah, only when it's incidental to classroom instruction at an educational institution.
Does this class count?
No, no, unfortunately not.
It's not in a classroom situation.
Hey, my condo is not even close to an educational institution.
Right.
Oh,
But if you're a teacher, a science teacher, perhaps who's forming a ham radio club in your middle school, then you're getting paid anyway.
right,
You're a
right.
high school
But it's legal.
Right.
Okay, when is it permissible to transmit messaging coded to hide their meaning? Okay, and like we said, that's one of those exceptions. It's only when transmitting commands for radio control or spacecraft, or, space stations. That's it.
After craft.
After craft. Okay. Under which of the following circumstances may an amateur station make one-way transmissions? And that is when transmitting code practice, information bulletins, or transmissions necessary to provide emergency communications. That's it, right? One-way transmissions, that's broadcasting, and we're not allowed to do that. Yes, there are people who do that. Those are called pirate stations.
Right.
And they can be busted. Now, as I've been reading, for the last couple of years, the FCC has not been chasing down shortwave pirates, but they have been chasing down pirates on the AM and FM bands. And there are many of those on the East Coast, particularly in the New York City area and in Florida, especially in the Miami area, where people are transmitting to particular, usually ethnic communities. Like in Miami, there's, for Cuban communities. In New York, there's a Haitian community that they have a pirate station for. There's actually some, I think it's Hasidic communities that also have some unlicensed broadcast stations.
Mhm.
But
there was a movie in the 90s called Pump Up the Volume. I don't know if you knew that movie, but do they do that same way to find those stations that they did in that movie where they triangulate them?
That's a sound way of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, when you get into QST magazine, there's a company that manufactures a radio direction finding thing. So on VHF, UHF, and it's a bunch of antennas on a square that fits on top of your roof, your car roof, and somehow or other electronically it can do triangulation even with that short space.
Wow.
So was that movie about radio stations broadcasting from ships offshore?
No, it was a high school kid with Christian Slater played this high school kid named Hart Harry on the radio, and all the kids listened to him and they got all upset. It was like, I think it came out in 1990.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and in England they used to have a couple of radio stations on ships
Oh, that
outside.
was a movie too.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and occasionally on the shortwave bands you could still hear numbers stations, which we think are instructions for spies, and usually they're chanting numbers in Spanish.
Nice.
But we talked about that Russian station, right? That they broadcast numbers too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and luckily we don't have the Russian woodpecker, which was over the horizon radar type of thing that just wreaked havoc on some of our upper ham bands, like 15 and 10 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there are some shortwave pirates out there. Here, let me play you just a few seconds of this. This one, it's
Oh, you're not sharing, Bob.
well, this is just audio.
Oh.
So there's no video to go with it. So this is a radio pirate called The Voice of Pancho Villa. Okay. Okay,
wasn't he supposed to be broadcasting on 6160 kilohertz?
Yeah, he was. He was, but
I didn't hear Cisco in there at all.
no. No, but anyhow, it's people goofing around. That's actually prohibited. You're not supposed to do that. So, anyhow, all right. Under what conditions is an amateur station authorized to transmit music? No, only when it happens in the background because you're retransmitting communications from spacecraft. That's all. All right.
Yeah, there was one time where I think it was the habit of control on the ground to wake up the people on the space station with burst rock music.
They played "Fly Me to the Moon" by Frank Sinatra.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, what types of amateur stations can automatically retransmit the signals of other amateur stations? And that is, of course, repeaters. You know that. So you know any of these things that doesn't have repeater is wrong. But repeaters can, space stations can, and other auxiliary kinds of stations can.
Sadly, 3 of those choices had repeater in them.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, yes.
And space
And
station.
spacers.
And
Yeah.
wow.
Except you look at the C, and that's got beacon in it, and
Which
beacon
that ain't
doesn't.
it.
Yeah, no, a beacon doesn't retransmit anyone's signal. It just sends out a constant signal of itself, so you can locate, or so you can know what path is open. Okay, and D has Earth in it. Well, you know, no. Okay, that's not right. Okay. Under which of the following circumstances may an amateur station authorize to transmit signals related to broadcasting programming, assuming no other means are available, and only where such communications directly relate to the immediate safety of human life or property. Emergencies relating to human life or property allow you to do all kinds of stuff that otherwise would not be allowed.
When they do the emergency broadcast system, do they broadcast on ham frequencies also?
No, they don't.
Okay.
Okay. What is the meaning of the term broadcasting in FCC rules? And that's transmission intended for reception by the general public. Also, broadcasting, the big thing about broadcasting is it's one way. You know, you're not expecting anything back. And okay, now that's it. Now, chapter 8, I know there was like lots of other little factoids in chapter 8, but those are the questions that may come up on your test.
So I have a basic question. So I get my license and I get my equipment and I'm all excited. I start doing something, then I mess up. Are they going to show up at my door the next day and take me to jail?
SWAT team.
I mean,
Marty will.
I mean, do you get forgiveness when you say, "Oh, I messed up. I didn't mean to do that"?
Bad boys, bad boys.
Mess up.
Well,
What happens?
You'll run into a bunch of very kind hams out there who will very gently show you the error of your way and be very forgiving and teach you how to do it the right way.
Or Bob might cuss at you.
They're going to come back for a favor in return.
I'm going to head up there one day and y'all will be surprised. And I'm going to end up at one of your meetings.
That would be awesome.
Okay, I'll buy you some coffee and a donut.
Yeah, Jerry, you still owe me coffee and a donut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me too.
Hey, let's charge into chapter 9. And I tell you what,
in there.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, charge. Chapter 9 is no more difficult than chapter 8 was. You know, it's a series of all kinds of little factoids, and let's get into them. Okay, we're going to start talking about electrical injuries. This is interesting stuff to know. The technician exam does not test you on any of these limits. Okay, so they're not going to ask you, oh, what are you going to feel at 5 milliamps? No, they're not. The interesting thing about that is to notice at how soon you can start feeling something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember, what we're talking about here is current, because it's current that's the problem, not voltage. Static electricity, for instance, static electricity can have voltage from 750 volts up to thousands of volts.
Couple 100,000.
Yeah.
So I really need to use that dryer sheet.
but for all those volts and it could be tens of thousands of volts, but it's a tiny little bit of current. It's less than a milliamp. So yeah, you're going to feel a little ping, but it's not going to do any damage. Lightning, on the other hand.
Let's talk extremes.
You end up with really cool scars. When you get struck
If you
by
live.
lightning.
If you live,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you live, you have really cool scars.
Yeah.
But
Beats a tattoo any day.
Lightning can be in the millions of volts, and it can be well in excess of 10,000 amps. So, yeah, That's bad.
So not 10,000 milliamps, 10,000 amps.
Yeah, 10,000 amps. Yeah.
Ooh, oh, wow.
But there's
Yeah,
certain
could be in the
voltages
millions.
that will
Could be in the
also,
billions of milliamps. Okay.
yeah, there's certain voltages that will make you hold on to it. There's some that you can get away from. Some will make
Right.
you hold on to it, and that's not
Yeah.
good.
Blocks your joints.
Usually, somewhere around 50 volts plus, you're going to start having problems.
Wow.
Okay. Okay, electrical injuries. Yeah, that's shocks and burns. At the voltages and the amperage that we're using in modern ham radio equipment, this is usually not a big problem. and most of us, are not going to be working inside our radios anyway. So if you were working inside your radio and you had an old rig, Jerry was talking about an old rig he had that was it was not solid state, it was tubes. And Jerry, you said it was some of the tubes got up to what, 1,500 watts or something, or
1,500 volts.
1,500 volts, yeah.
Right.
So
luckily, I didn't come in contact with that, but I did come in contact with a secondary power supply that supplied around 250 volts. Luckily, there, I didn't grip onto anything, so I just got bounced back.
Ooh.
So I'm here today.
Wow.
I got 13.8 going across my property.
Okay, electrical safety. The best way to avoid to stay electrically safe is stay away from, open wires, all right? Unplug equipment before working on it.
Yep.
They tell you keep one hand in your pocket. That sounds pretty cumbersome to me, but what they're trying to avoid is they're trying to avoid the current, passing from your left arm to your right arm, because the path takes it through your heart.
Through your heart.
Okay. And no rings, no watches, bracelets.
Right.
Yeah. Make sure your equipment is grounded and use power from a ground fault circuit interrupter protected circuits, a GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter circuits. Okay.
Yeah, I knew an electrician at work. He wasn't doing ham radio. He was doing regular power, but he lost a finger because he had his ring on.
Mhm.
And he got
Wow.
You don't think about that kind of stuff
So it's
making
important.
a connection, but it can. Yep.
Yeah, he lost a finger because of it.
Yep.
Ouch.
But it was regular power. It was, regular.
Household.
Okay. Yeah. Working on lab equipment, remove jewelry, avoid touching anything you don't have to touch. Never bypass the safety interlocks. They're there for a reason. They're well thought out. They were done by engineers. Don't bypass them. Discharge high voltage points and components to ground. This would be things like capacitors that can store energy. Oh, and yeah, capacitors can store energy even after the power is off. Yeah, that's the whole purpose. Storage batteries are dangerous when shorted out, and I think the book even says, I don't know if it was this chapter or another chapter where it talked about the dangers of, if you drop steel tools on the terminals of your battery. Yeah, very bad things can happen very, very quickly.
You can melt a small wrench.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, responding to electrical injury. Now, this is like someone else's, not yours. So remove the power, right? And don't start tugging on people if they're still in contact with an electrical source. All right. You should have on-off power switches and circuit breakers clearly marked so you can get to them. And people around you should know where they are also. And you should have emergency master power switches and make sure everyone else knows how to use it. Call for help, for God's sakes. I'm sorry. Oh, learn CPR. Yeah, you should know CPR. Okay, grounding. All right. Grounding. Now, yeah, make sure your station meets code. Now, and it's interesting, there is actually a question on this on the test asking you if, what code your station has to meet. And it's the local code.
Yep.
Your local areas have their own electrical codes. You must meet those as a minimum. Okay. Now, there's a lot of other cool supposed answers to that question, but involving international and national standard. No, it's the local codes you need. All right. Most ham equipment does not require special wiring or circuits. No. Use 3-wire power cords. Yeah, with the ground on it. Use circuit breakers, circuit breaker outlets, ground fault circuit interrupter circuits. Use proper fuses. Yeah, proper fuses. Certainly, if you get to building your own equipment,
make sure take the pennies out.
Yeah.
Well, it keeps blowing the 5-amp fuse. Let's put a 20 in.
Put it at 20. Yeah, that'll do it.
No.
No. Okay, yes, and don't overload single outlets or circuits, meaning, no, don't put the penny in there. No. Okay. All right, grounding and bonding. RF burns from hot spots at high voltage or do not cause injury at the ham power levels, at the normal power levels that we use, right?
They're little burns. They hurt, and it takes an awful long time to heal.
Yeah.
Take it from me.
Oh no.
What do you recommend for people that don't have grounding? Like my house has they don't, all the sockets don't have grounds.
All the sockets don't have grounds.
I mean, they're like 2-prong adapt. The old houses have just, the 2-prong.
Well, it depends. What I did, I drilled a hole in my floor to the basement and fed a wire to the nearest cold water pipe. That's what I'm using as a serious ground.
As your ground.
All right.
Hey, Jerry, what size wire did you use for that? 12 or 10 or 14?
Number 12.
12,
That's what I had. And something else. It's probably not recommended, but the common or the ground of a 3-prong, the little circle one.
Mm-hmm.
You can put a screw in there and use that as a ground. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to put my life on it.
Sabrina.
You make me cringe.
Okay. All right.
Will that work?
Well,
neutral and the ground are usually tied together at the panel board, but it's not recommended to do that elsewhere.
Right. And who knows? Maybe an idiot decided to do something. Mix the wires up or something of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my house. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have a neutral, you could end up with an unbalanced load if everybody's panel boards are going to be unbalanced. So you will end up with current on the neutral. It's just not a good idea.
Not a good idea. Okay, so from wherever you are, just find a window, drill a hole, feed some heavy duty wire down there, and get a ground. They usually recommend an 8-foot. I guess a ground rod. You can get those things readily at any Home Depot type store.
Make sure it's at least 8 feet though when you do a ground rod. 3/4 inch diameter.
And
okay.
Anyone in the area, I have a 15-pound sledgehammer that I made out of a bunch of weights, the exercise weights, and it makes it easy to pound the doggone thing in.
Just lift it up and drop it. Lift it up and drop it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, prevent by bonding or connecting equipment together with heavy wire or strap. Prevent by keeping people away from antennas and radios or counterpoise wires. All right, and ground equipment for alternating current safety. Lightning protection.
Good one.
Yeah, now this is
Sure, 8-foot ground.
Yeah, this is where we're talking about the 8-foot ground rods, particularly.
And
Jerry,
these questions are on the test.
Yeah.
Well, can be. I'll say that can be.
That can be. So, Jerry was telling us a couple of sessions ago that, for his tower, he has 8-foot ground rods to what, Jerry, did you say 3 of the legs or all 4?
It's a triangular leg, so
it's a triangle, so 3, yeah.
3 legs. So, they're all bonded to each other. So we only hope. I also have a surge protector on each of the lines going up to the antennas.
Good.
Yeah, that hopefully isolates your radios from the lightning strike.
Okay, ground connections should be as short as possible. Yeah, yeah. If your wires to your ground are too long, they can resonate. So, all right, use lightning arresters on a single ground plate where cables enter the house. Yes. Unplug and disconnect equipment if lightning is expected.
Yes.
Our club president, not the current one, but the previous one, an electrical engineer and many, many years experience, Ham a long time. You know what? He got one of his radios destroyed by lightning. Now, the lightning doesn't have to hit your tower. It just has to hit close enough to load a lot of energy into your antenna. And
the strips that you have, that the power strips are supposed to have a protection in them.
Yeah.
If you have the type that you don't know, and it could pop it and you don't know, and that protection may be gone and you may not know it. So you just have to be careful that if you ever have a lightning storm and power goes out and if the stuff flutters, it could hurt that strip, that power strip.
So it's not as sensitive.
Where the lightning protection really doesn't work anymore. You have to be careful of that.
Okay.
Mine are all indicating where it'll pop a little button if it blows it.
Okay. Now we're talking about radio frequency exposure. And RF exposure, it's not the same as radioactivity. RF exposure is not going to alter your genes. There's just not enough energy. Okay, it'll heat the body, and it'll heat different parts of the body at different rates, and it'll heat different parts of the body depending on the frequency. But it's not going to damage your genes.
Good,
your genetic genes, your blue genes.
Oh,
your blue genes.
Because I just bought these genes. All right.
Okay, Bob. There was a story of the fellow who got the thought of the first microwave oven. He was working on a Navy or an Air Force radar installation, and he noticed that his candy bar got soft. I shudder to think how much of exposure he had. His meat could be cooked at the same time.
Right.
Okay. All right. Power density is measured by watts per square meter. Where am I here? I had some.
Okay, I think there's a chart in the next slide or two.
Yep, there is.
We're not going to show it to you, but yes, there is.
Yeah. Well, if you asked very nicely. Okay. Yeah, absorption. Oh, yeah. And I told you it varies with frequency because different parts of your body take in electromagnetic waves at different rates and at different frequencies. All right. Here is the famous chart. Now, what I want you to know, and we talked a little bit before about the controlled versus the uncontrolled environment. In fact, the next couple of slides are going to explain that, but I want to talk about it here while you're looking at the actual chart. So the controlled environment, that's for an area where you have some control over the people that are there. And whereas the uncontrolled environment, that would be like innocent bystanders, where you don't necessarily know they're there. They don't know your equipment is working. So the amount of exposure that you are allowed to expose them to is much, much lower than the exposure limit for the controlled environment. All right. The thing I want you to really look at here is this. Look at the frequency range here at the lowest possible limits, 30 megahertz to 300 megahertz. That's the VHF band. Okay. The 2 meter band is in here. Actually, the 1.25 millimeter or 1.25 centimeter band is in there also, but we don't talk about that too much. The 220 band is in there also. VHF, of course, is out here around 440, but the 2 meter band, that's a big deal. Now, having said that, remember what we're talking about is we're talking about the area where people can be exposed to electromagnetic waves coming out of your antenna. This is not exposure limits for your radio, where your radio, it's your antenna, where you're sending out electromagnetic waves. Okay? Okay, and here we go. No. Okay. The controlled environment, you know where people are standing in relation to your antenna, and you can do something about it. You can make them move. And higher power density is allowed because you can make adjustments, Whereas in the uncontrolled environment, you have no control over the people. So you have to take more caution here. All right. Lower power density is allowed. Yeah, is allowed because you can't control the exposure of innocent bystanders. Okay, now, duty cycle.
Wait, before we get into that, no, what you can do to control your environment, I think you mentioned, is to raise the antenna so it's far away from them. Like my neighbor Jose just reinstalled his antenna pole, and now it's about 30 feet high, so nobody has to really worry about radiation from his antenna.
Yeah, right. You're increasing the distance, so the controlled area is further up, and the people can't get closer than 30 feet to his antenna because it's up in the air. Mm-hmm. If you're using directional antennas, the other thing you do is just not point it in the direction where, where there is jeopardy, where people are in jeopardy. You remember back to the radiation patterns for directional antennas, and you can see that in the forward direction, you get a lot of distance in the forward direction, but in the back, the other direction, the 180 degrees from the forward direction, it's almost a null. You have very little electromagnetic energy going out in that direction. Now, again, we're talking about the antenna. We're talking about transmitting. So there
was a question from Amelia. Would raising the antenna increase the chance for lightning strikes? And
probably, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what you going to do? Take the risk.
What about putting in an arrestor on the antenna mount? Would that hurt anything? A lightning arrestor, I'm talking about.
On the coaxial cable, yeah. On the antenna mount,
just make sure on the mount. If you put an antenna up, let's say 30 feet up or whatever, 10 feet up or whatever, if you could put a lightning arrestor near it or whatever.
Well, the lightning arrestor would protect the coaxial cable. The only way you can safeguard yourself otherwise is to put a ground rod in and bond it to it. Make sure that the easiest path for the lightning is straight to the ground.
The shortest path to the ground. That's correct. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course, the antenna is still going to get fried. But
yeah.
Which is why the American Radio Relay League has an insurance policy which takes care of stuff like that. Replacement cost too.
Okay. That's
and
good
if
to
you
know.
get a direct hit, all bets are off on anything.
Okay. Duty cycle. This is, remember, we're talking about your antenna and that time you're transmitting. So that's when you got that push to talk button depressed, when you're actually sending out a signal. When you're not sending out a signal, you're not pushing out electromagnetic waves and everything's hunky-dory. So in determining exposure limits, you've got to know the duty cycle. which is just the amount of time that you're transmitting relative to total time. Different modes have different duty cycles. The one you kind of need to know about specifically for 2 meters is FM voice, which is a 100% duty cycle. It's FM, so it's frequency modulated, not amplitude modulated. You remember the graph that showed the amplitude is always the same in frequency modulation. So you hit the push to talk and it's always there. In amplitude modulation, the amplitude raises and increases and decreases. Okay, exposure evaluation. Now, there are a couple different ways. Now, the thing is, when you get into a big station, everyone has to perform this exposure evaluation. For VHF at 50 watts, I'm sorry, not watts. Yeah, 50 watts or less. You're at low enough power that you don't need to do this. But, you know, if you were going to go on VHF with an amplifier, increase your power up to 100 watts, yeah, you need to do it. If you're in the VHF bands where you can go up to, or the HF bands where you can go up to 1500 watts, yeah, you absolutely have to do an exposure evaluation. There's 3 different ways to do it. An online calculator, you can use modeling software, or you can use RF power density measuring, and that's the most difficult thing, and that's the online calculator is the easiest. And there's several out there. Let me show you one. This is okay. This is free. This is a website you can go to. It's hintlink.com, hintlink.com, hintlink.com. And you just go to the RF. They've got a lot of different cool things on here, along with the power density calculator. They've got, you know, horizon indicators and path loss and all that. That's kind of cool. But we're interested in the RF safety calculator, which is this. And it's just this easy. And let's go through this one real quick. Let's say the average power at your antenna, let's say 100 watts. All right. And let's say you've got a dipole. So you've got 2.2 gain, 2.2 decibels gain. And let's say the area of interest is 35 feet. And you're going to be operating, let's say, in the 10 meter band or 28 megahertz. Okay. You just put in those and then you calculate. And immediately it comes back here and it tells you in the controlled environment for these inputs in the controlled environment, you're good. Okay. Does the area of interest appear to be compliant? Yes. How about the uncontrolled environment? Again, for those, yes. If, for instance, we went to 1,000, but kept all 1,000 watts, but kept all the other indicators, all of a sudden you would see that in the controlled environment, you know, with 35 feet away, the controlled environment's okay, but the uncontrolled environment, you are not in compliance. This is all you need to do. So you can Google this, and there are others out there, but I just kind of like this one. It's HintLink. Okay.
So on typical handy talkies, on typical mobile radios, this is really not much of an issue. It's when you start getting into big bases.
Yeah, because remember your handy talkie is probably going to be 5 watts or less. So yeah, no, you don't have to.
Mobile's around 50, yeah. So.
And even for a base station on 2 meters, normally the last 2 radios I have, they both although they allowed me 100 watts on HF, they were limited to 50 watts on VHF. So I couldn't go higher than 50 watts.
Right.
And so that's okay. And up on UHF, it only allowed me 20 watts. So that's even, even less.
The thing that used to worry me was the police officers had a microphone with little antenna right on there, and it gives them a little extra coverage. But here he's talking and RF radiating right into his brain.
Right.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Right.
But according to what Bob says, we're okay.
Yeah, we're good. It's 5 watts.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so when you go to the emergency room, tell the doctor I said it was okay.
Bob said.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, at low power levels, no evaluations required. Reevaluation. Yeah, if you change your station, you get new equipment, change the antenna, change the location of the antenna. You know, when you change things in your station, you have to do a reevaluation.
Okay, Bob, I think that was one of the questions in the exam.
Yep, when you change equipment.
Okay, reducing out of exposure. Relocate or reorient or raise the antenna. Yeah, like Jerry was talking about. Raise the antenna. Reduce the gain. Reduce the power. All right? Well, reduce the gain. You could do that by switching from a directional antenna to a vertical. So,
And by the way, the vertical antenna, those little whips and all that sort of stuff are just the same amount of gain as a dipole. So that's 2.2 over an isotropic.
okay, reduce RF power output or change to a lower duty cycle mode. A lower duty cycle, so if you're on phone, you can switch down to CW or something, or one of the digital modes.
No, you can't. The digital modes, that's constant power.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, then CW. Go to CW.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. All right, mobile installations. Yeah, secure all equipment. Big thing about putting one in your car is you need to know when you can operate it. You know, if you're driving through Troy, Michigan, they have regulations against that. You can't be talking on your radio when you're going through Troy, Michigan.
Or you have to have
hands free. If you have
hands free. I'm surprised that I don't see too much equipment being offered in the marketplace for hands-free operation. That would someone will make a couple of $1 million if they do that.
You know, Jerry, I have the Yaesu 400 that I have in my truck, and that can be connected Bluetooth.
Oh, good.
So no push to talk, or
no push to talk.
No push to talk.
Bluetooth.
No push to talk.
That's cool.
Okay. Yeah. So know where you can operate it, and make sure your equipment is not going to, fly out through the car when you slam on the brakes.
Okay. Do we have something in the next slide about where to put the fuses?
That is coming up. Yes.
Okay. Good.
Okay. I think Okay. Keep antenna. Oh, power line safety. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's not on the slides. It's in the book, I know, but it's not on the slides maybe because we're into power line safety.
You need a fuse on each of the lines, both the positive and negative.
Yeah.
And there's some question about connecting the power at the negative of the battery or the ground to the something.
Yeah, what was that? What do you mean by a fuse on the ground and on the
neutral? They
want
two fuses, one on each side of the DC lines.
Yeah, there are a couple of cases where the entire fury of the battery will.
For a battery, okay.
Yeah, battery will go through your radio.
Okay.
And as far as I don't know, I thought usually when you do a jump start, either the negative of the battery terminal or a good ground on a car frame.
There is a question in there that could come up that it's something about the negative side. I think the idea is they don't want you to just connect it to like a ground under your dash somewhere.
Right.
They want you to
It's gotta
run
be
it
to
like
that
all the way
special
back.
ground. Yeah. The body of the car.
Yeah, it's something like the negative side of the battery or some kind of a beefy ground to the engine
Yeah.
of the car. Or
Some of your
something.
modern
Engine
cars
block.
have an actual place to say they should have one that says ground here, and they have a little thing that attaches to the body, the frame.
Since most of the stuff on a car is fiberglass now, it's nice to have
that's true.
real ground.
I was watching one video, a guy was connecting an antenna in the back, and he did something with the ground with the antenna or something. I'm not sure, but he had to like electrically bond from surface to surface to surface back through his car.
Yeah. So much plastic and stuff in cars these days.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Okay, power line safety. It's kind of a shame, but I have not read, in the last dozen years of anyone injuring themselves working on their radios. Where the injuries and the deaths come is working with the antennas. And the problems there, one of the big ones is having your antenna or your mast come in contact with power lines. There have been deaths associated with that. So that's a very, very big deal.
I have 13,800 volts running across my property on all three lines. So I will make sure that I'll install my antenna way away from that.
Oh yes.
Right. And in fact, there is a potential test question asking you about that. And the answer to that is, of course, you want to install your antenna in a place where if it falls, it will not hit a power line. And in fact, it will have at least 10 feet clearance before it can hit a power line.
That's why I think the total height of my antenna tower to the top of the vertical that's on top of it is 40 feet. And someone was egging me on, come on, make the tower 50 feet, 60 feet. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
and
I think my biggest problem is going to be deer.
Okay, but Sabrina, if you're going to put an HF dipole up, make sure that it is perpendicular to those 13,000 foot power lines. That way you get a minimum of the hash and stuff that comes out of those.
Okay.
Okay, and never attach the antennas or the guide lines to utility poles or utility structures. Okay.
Power companies will shave them off.
Yeah.
Tower work. Okay. Proper clothing, hard hat, eye protection. Last week, talking about regulations, I showed up with a tie on. Jerry told me this week I should show up with a climbing harness on.
Yeah.
And a hard hat. So
yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, I decided just my Michigan State sweatshirt will protect me.
Roll Tide.
Uh-oh.
Tide Pod.
Okay. I get a little crap from that too from my wife. She's a Wolverine.
Good for her.
Anyhow, use proper climbing harness, not a rock climbing gear. Okay. Don't use crank up towers unless they're supported. Don't use crank up towers only supported by the lift cable. You've got to block your towers so it's not going to be collapsing when you're in it. And use a gin pole, meaning any other kind of pole to help lift the weights if you're lifting up antennas or such. Don't just depend on your own super strength to do so. Oh, and don't work alone. Okay, that's that.
Wow. So that's the book?
That's the book.
That is the book. Now, let's get to the fun part.
All of the above.
Oh, let's see.
2 times as much. Sorry, I saw that question go by. I didn't even know what they were talking about, and I just rationalized it out. When I was doing that one. Yes.
Okay. Again, let's talk through some of this. And again, some of this is really kind of easy stuff. Some of it we'll spend a little more time on. All right. Yes, Marty, here's one for you. What health hazard is presented by electrical current flowing through the body? Can it cause heating? Heating of tissue? Yes, it can.
It can toast
Can
your
it
bones.
disrupt electrical function of cells? Yes. Involuntary muscle contractions? Yes.
I
So
thought
it's
that was
all
just
the
my
above.
Tourette's.
All right. Which of the following is a safety hazard of a 12-volt storage battery? And yeah, remember, we talked about this, dropping tools that, on the terminals. If you connect the terminals, short out the terminals, yes, it can have an immediate exothermic reaction. Yeah, cause burns,
And it
fire.
could be hot.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of hazard might exist if a power supply, when it's turned off and disconnected?
This is Jerry's favorite
Capacitors.
question.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the
Talked about the
capacitor question.
capacitors. Yeah.
Remember, the whole purpose of a capacitor is to store electrical
Store
energy.
That's right.
Yeah. So you turn it off and it's still got some. It'll take time to bleed out. All right. In the U.S., what's connected to the green wire?
Ground.
That's the ground. Okay. Everyone knows that's the ground. Okay. What's a good way to guard against electrical shock?
Don't touch it.
3-wire cords? Sure. A common ground? Yes. Circuit protect. Ground fault circuit interrupter circuits? Yes. All those are correct.
Yes.
All right. What safety equipment should always be included in home-built equipment? Yes. Fuses or circuit breakers in series with the AC hot conductor. Okay. Fuse or circuit breaker in series.
Some of those, this is the one question I think I've seen that the other choices just are all ridiculous.
An inductor in parallel with it. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
None of these make sense.
Yeah.
Well, put a voltmeter on it. That'll tell you. What? None of those make sense.
The last site you see, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Was 25.
Okay. Lightning protection.
I used to design lightning protection for buildings and power
sweet.
stations. That was so cool.
That's cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Which of these precautions should be taken when installing devices for lightning protection on coax? Mount all the protectors on a metal plate that is in turn connected to an external ground rod. Okay? Those of you with technical backgrounds like I have, this is one just to memorize. All right.
Yeah, you just have to think you're trying to get the fastest path from lightning to the ground. That's what you got to think about.
I have 3 protectors on a sheet of metal, and I'm using either aluminum or stainless steel, so I don't get any kind of corrosion, and that goes directly to a heavy wire, number 10 wire that goes to my ground rod. That works.
There you go.
Okay, what should be done to all external ground rods or earth connections? And yes, you bond them together with heavy wire or conductive strap. This is just what Jerry was talking about for the ground rods for his tower, that they are one ground rod on each leg, plus the ground rods are all bonded together.
Yes.
Okay, which of the following is true when installing grounding connectors used for lightning protections? Yes, sharp bends must be avoided, right?
That's correct.
Smooth.
All right. Which of the following establishes grounding requirements for an amateur radio tower or antenna? And this is what I was telling you. You're talking about codes. It's the local codes that apply. It's the local codes at the minimum. Okay.
That's right. 'Cause they'll probably be more restringent than just the National Electrical Code. If they have a special case, they're going to be more tight on their requirements than the national.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's good. All right.
Yeah, that.
Which of
that
the
makes sense.
following is which of the following is good practice when installing ground wires on a tower for lightning protection? And that is, ensure all connections are short and direct.
Yeah, and so we were talking earlier about how if something's wrong, if any of the choices are wrong, it can't be all of these,
Yeah.
right? And so
Correct.
the right
Yeah.
angle bend is completely wrong. Right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was like a clue.
Yeah, that could break so easy.
Okay, managing RF. Which of the following conductors provides the lowest impedance? And that is the flat strap. Remember back in chapter 3 where we're talking about that the
The skin effect.
RF, the electromagnetic wave, travels on the outside of the conductor. Yeah, it travels on the outside of the conductor. So the more surface area you have, the lower impedance you have. Okay. What is a symptom of RF feedback in a transmitter or transceiver? Yeah, reports are garbled or distorted. And
so-
so,
Does that mean
sometime-
like feedback from people who receive it?
Yeah, people that are receiving your
Okay.
transmissions.
They're saying,
you
"Ooh, you
can-
sound terrible."
yeah. You can also draw a spark off your equipment sometimes.
Oh, well, that's always fun.
That's interesting.
That's what that I found with off-center fed antennas.
Let's not do that. Okay.
okay, which of the following could you use to cure distorted audio caused by RF current on the shield of microphone cables? And that's by using a ferrite choke. None of the prepared slides included this little ditty, this little factoid, but it's one you need to know. So when you
I saw it
talk
go by
about
enough times. Yeah.
yeah, so just remember ferrite choke. Okay?
Isn't that just like a circular piece of metal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's powdered and solid,
Yeah.
Okay.
and actually they come. Let's see.
Almost some can look tubular.
Yeah, and
okay, yeah.
this one actually, if I can get it right, this is a ferrite choke. It's
Yeah.
comes in half and just clamps together.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Which of the following is a way to reduce or eliminate interference from another amateur transmitter to a nearby telephone? And yes, that again is placing an RF filter on the telephone. Okay, interference. Which of the following can cause radio frequency interference? Fundamental overload? Oh, yeah. Harmonics? Yes, of course. Spurious emissions? Yeah, well, that's kind of the definition. Yeah, all those are correct. Marty, did that one appear on your test?
I don't know if it appeared on one of them, one of my
Oh.
practice tests, or maybe on the one that I took Monday or Tuesday. I don't know.
Okay. What would cause a broadcast AM or FM radio to receive amateur radio transmission unintentionally? And that is just the receiver can't reject the signal. Radio equipment is supposed to be built so that it will reject unwanted signals, but often they are not. So
The manufacturers sometimes cut corners and don't design right, or don't want to put that particular filter in.
you know, and those filters like that, they're not expensive though, are they?
No.
Yeah. Okay. How can overload of a non-amateur radio or TV receiver by an amateur signal be reduced? Block the amateur signal with a filter at the antenna input of the affected receiver. The affected receiver, not the amateur equipment, not the amateur, but at the one that's receiving the interference.
Okay.
Okay, that's where the filter goes. All right, which of the following can reduce overload to a VHF transceiver from a nearby FM broadcast station? And that is a band reject filter. And I think this is sometimes referred to as a notch filter.
Mhm.
And this is a filter which blocks out a narrow bunch of signals, right? It allows signals lower and higher to pass, but it blocks out a specific band of RF.
Yeah, we generally don't see that much interference nowadays.
Okay. All right. What should be the first step to resolve cable TV interference from your ham radio transmission? And the first thing
It's
again,
like classic troubleshooting.
yeah,
Check all your connections.
Yeah,
Check
exactly.
all your connections. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely right. Okay, and which of the following is a common reason to use shielded wire? And that's to prevent coupling of unwanted signals to and from the wire.
So are you saying the shielded wire is to shield it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amazingly so, yes.
I had a situation one time where a friend who operated a store, they were having trouble with their phone line. And then I realized they put their phone line in with the power lines in the same conduit. And they were asking me
Well, that's convenient.
how to fix it. And I said, well, take your phone line out and just strap it to the conduit. Yeah, that shielding is very important.
It's helpful.
Okay. All right. Which of the following actions should you take if a neighbor tells you that your station's transmissions are interfering with their radio or TV reception?
I'm a ham radio operator and I can do what I want.
That's
right.
right.
That's right. Look it up, Cupcake.
Jerry, it's like this. Yeah.
You're lucky it's 30 feet up, buddy.
Okay. First, make sure your station is functioning properly. Okay. Check those connections and whatnot. And then it doesn't cause interference to your radio or TV. That's the first thing you do. Okay. All right. What should you do if something in the neighbor's home is causing harmful interference to your station?
Hatfields and McCoys, baby.
Very sounds gonna say, take a gun.
Them fine words.
Be polite. Come on. Polite.
Yeah.
All right. Work with your neighbor and inform them about the rules that prohibit use of devices that cause interference. Yeah, and check your station and make sure your station is working properly.
What could it be? I mean, what could it be like if they also had a radio? Or I mean like my TV, or I just have like your basic stuff here.
If they had some appliance that was faulty.
Oh, okay.
And giving out.
For instance, I don't know if they're still around or all went to recycle, but you had those touch lamps. Touch anywhere in the lamp and the thing would turn on or increase intensity or something like that. And
or somebody's got a secret grow place in their house.
Oh, we don't need that anymore. It's legal here in Michigan.
Okay, and I think there was
not in Tennessee.
Yeah, someplace in Massachusetts where they found a controller for one of those a store sign, changes lettering and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it took out something like a 2 square mile area.
Wow.
Interfering with car radios and everything.
Oh my God.
And so I guess I was thinking like if it was a TV or something, I would figure, okay, they're hearing what I'm watching. But something like a lamp, what sort of interference would it just prevents you from transmitting, or you can hear it?
You can hear stuff, strange signals, buzzes, and things like that.
LED lights can do that. Fluorescent lights can do that.
Neon, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
All the above.
Yeah. Okay, what is a Part 15 device? Okay, that's any unlicensed device that emits low power signals on frequency used by a licensed service. Okay. We have priority over those.
Yeah.
All right, exposure. What type of radiation are VHF and UHF signals? They're non-ionizing radiation. Okay. They are specifically not ionizing. They're not gamma radiation, for God's sakes. Okay. What do exposure limits, or why do exposure limits vary with frequency? And yes, and I think there was a chart in the book. Yes, there was a chart in the book that tells you the different parts of the body that that absorb different frequencies. That's a cool thing, but this is, you don't need to memorize that, but you need to remember that different parts of the body absorb different frequencies. All right.
I think that's one of the questions on Tuesday's test that I was like, I don't know. So
okay.
Didn't remember seeing that one ever.
You heard it here first, guys.
All right. So yeah, the human body absorbs more RF energy at some frequencies than at others. Okay. What could happen if a person accidentally touched your antenna while you were transmitting?
Ooh,
Ouch.
not good.
Ow.
Not good.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, they could get a burn. They might
Why
develop
would you do
radiation
that?
poisoning. Yeah, I don't
On
think
a
so.
dare?
Not paying
Go
attention.
up on the roof and hang on to the antenna while I'm
Well,
talking.
not all antennas are on the roof, though. That's the problem, right?
True,
Exactly.
true.
I got to worry about
There
deer.
are some ground-mounted vertical antennas. Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
those things do have radio frequency energy all the way up.
Okay. How does RF radiation differ from ionizing radiation? RF radiation does not have sufficient energy to cause genetic damage. All right. We talked about that. That's
That
an
doesn't hurt
easy
your
one.
genes, Levi's or others.
Yes. Which of the following frequencies has the lowest value for maximum permissible exposure limit? This is where you remember back to that chart we had earlier.
Yep, that graph.
Okay. And remember, it was in the VHF area, 30 megahertz to 300 megahertz. So 50 megahertz is the right answer here.
Yeah.
All right. Why is duty cycle one of the factors used to determine safe RF radiation exposure? Well, of course, it affects the average exposure to radiation.
So keyword there is average, because there's choice B right there has the exact same wording,
the
except peak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
average, like you're thinking long term, not just the high points.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's it takes into consideration the peak and the
Right,
trough.
right, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the definition of duty cycle during an averaging time
He said duty.
for RF exposure? And that's the percentage of time the transmitter is transmitting. All right. If the averaging time for exposure is 6 minutes, how much power density is permitted if the signal is present for 3 minutes and absent for 3 minutes, rather than being present for all 6 minutes?
So for half the time.
Two times.
Twice as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that I first saw, and I'm like, I don't know, but twice as much makes sense because you're transmitting half as much.
Right.
Yeah, think of it like you know, even like medical dosages. You know, if your doctor tells you, well, you know, take 100 milligrams of oxycodone twice a day, and you go to the pharmacy and they give you 50 milligram tablets, okay, you can take twice as many tablets, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not that we're encouraging that.
No.
No,
No,
it makes
we're-
me sick. I just have to throw up.
Okay. What is the maximum power level an amateur radio station may use at VHF frequencies before RF exposure evaluation is required? And that's 50 watts, peak envelope power. 50 watts. Remember, most of the modern radios that you buy, base station radios, are going to be 50 watts or less. Your little handheld HT is only going to be 5 watts. So,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah, there are some mighty mites that are made by the major companies that will go up to 60 or 75 watts, but that's the exception rather than the rule.
So note that it says at the antenna versus the PEP reflected power. Right?
Yeah.
Because I in my practicing, I was like, oh, I remember it's 50, but dang, which one? Yeah. So at the
Yeah, I
antenna.
was wondering how you could put that in your head that it's 50.
Yeah, remember, and it's 50 and it's at the antenna because what we're talking about is sending out your signal. The
Right.
reflected power is how much is coming back into your radio. That's going to blow out your circuits, but
Right. Yeah, let's not do that.
Okay. What factors affect RF exposure of people near an amateur radio station? Does the frequency and power? Sure. The distance? Yes. Radiation pattern? Yes. We talked about radiation pattern. If the directional antenna is pointing away from you, you're going to receive a lot less. So yeah, all of those answers are correct. All right. Which of the following is an acceptable method to determine that your station complies with FCC RF exposure? Yeah, you can do it by any method. either by calculation, by computer modeling, by field strength calibration. Any of those ways are fine. You just have to do it. And again, that's that link.
You said you have to do it. How often do you do this?
You need to do it once, and then anytime you change your station, whether you change any of your equipment, your antenna, your radio, if you add a power amplifier, you need to redo it.
That's probably a question that we're about to get to.
Okay.
Right. When do you have to?
Yeah, because that is on there. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the very next one.
Oh yeah. How do you make sure your station stays in compliance?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I just didn't
go.
read ahead. Okay.
There it is. No, I've just seen the question before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's funny.
Reevaluate anytime you change the equipment.
That was right on time.
Well, which of the following actions might amateur operators take to prevent exposure to RF radiation? Well, relocate
Get higher.
No, the transmitter has nothing to do with it. Increase the duty cycle? No, that's going the wrong way. So, relocate the antenna.
Yeah,
or make it
taller.
higher. Yeah, make it taller.
Make it taller.
Okay. Now we're to the don't fall off the tower kind of questions. All right. Which of the following is an important safety precaution to observe when putting up an antenna tower? Look for and stay clear of overhead electrical wires. Yes. Those 13,800.
Of course, they're way up there.
This
They're
is
probably
not
50 feet
an
up,
all of the above.
100 feet up or more.
Okay. All right. What is the minimum safe distance from a power line to allow when installing an antenna? And yes, this is where the 10 feet.
There it is.
So if it falls, it's got to be no closer than 10 feet to power lines.
After it falls, right?
Yeah.
Half the distance of your property. Come on.
Half the distance to you. Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense. Your property could be 50 feet by 100 feet, or it could be 15 acres.
Right. But if that power line comes ripping right through there, you got to stay away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's way up there, so I don't have to worry about it.
Sweet.
Okay. All right. What's considered to be proper grounding for a tower? Yes. And Jerry's talked about this, and this is separate 8-foot long ground rods for each leg, bonded to the tower and to each other.
Yeah, not the 4. The round 4.
All right. All right. Why should you avoid attaching an antenna to a utility pole? Yeah, because you can come in contact with high voltage power lines. Yes.
And they'll take it off anyway because it's not allowed to be there. It's their property.
Right. Then there's a DTE guy on broadcasting that he's got an antenna for sale.
Yes, exactly. Look what I found.
There are some people in our city. We have our property, the sidewalk, and then a little verge to the curb, and trees are planted on it. So some people will attach part of their dipole to the end of that tree. It's legal. It's on public property, but you shouldn't have any problems with it. But if the city comes around tree trimming, they're going to cut it.
Yep.
So you have to just find a way of putting it up again.
Yep.
Hazard of the day there.
It's the risk you take.
Yep. Goes with the. All right. What's the purpose of the safety wire through the turnbuckle used to tension guy wires? And that's just to prevent loosening from vibration. Remember, you've got your tower or your antenna mast. It's going to vibrate anytime the wind blows. And you don't want the wires coming loose.
So I'm picturing that like a cotter pin kind of thing, a wire going through a bolt to keep it from spinning. Is that what that is?
No, two. Oh.
I think they had a picture in the book.
Is there a picture? Because
there's a drawing in the book.
Okay.
Because my drawing skills are not.
I don't. As I remember, it's not a photograph; it's a drawing.
That's one that I never got to, but I saw the question enough that I remembered it. But
No, I don't see a drawing. Is it somewhere here? I see where they're showing about power lines going through trees and stuff.
see that one. Well, it's not a big deal. You can roll.
It's only one question.
Yep.
Okay.
I hope it's not the
Because I
question.
swear I saw that.
It may be. I'm
No
looking
more
right now in
swearing.
chapter 9 and I don't see it, but it could be somewhere.
I'm sure it's somewhere. No, it's fine. Just roll. It's all good.
Okay. Okay, what is a good precaution to observe when climbing an antenna tower? Yeah, carefully inspect the harness.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Under what circumstances is it safe to climb without an observer or a helper?
No,
Never.
Sure.
don't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, you need someone to call 911. All right, what's the purpose of a gin pole? And that's to lift sections, tower sections, or the antenna, or
I've never seen that
No.
question.
any other heavy stuff you need to get upstairs.
That's funny.
Okay, which of the following is an important safety rule to remember when using crank-up tower?
Don't
All
have it
right.
hooked up.
Yeah, you have to have locking devices installed, or you have to have it blocked before you start climbing it. You can't just have it in place with its own.
If that cable breaks and
yeah.
or the connector, the bolts and all that sort of
Mhm.
you're in trouble.
Okay.
Okay, on page 9.1, is that one where it's the picture of the guy that's on the tower?
Ah,
Are those the
Safety harnesses and
thingy
stuff.
doos?
He's got a good safety harness, and it looks
Right.
as if he is tightening a turnbuckle.
yeah.
Oh, that's not the guy line that they were talking about?
Yeah, that's a turnbuckle.
That is
for
it? Oh,
for
okay.
the,
That is, okay.
guy line. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. Okay.
Right. You got sharp eyes.
Trying to learn this.
Yeah, and it's much better when you understand what's going on.
Yes.
I mean,
Mhm.
there are some questions that, okay, it's just going to be that answer, but
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
better
Right.
in general if you really understand what's going
Yes.
on.
Okay. Bob, can you give the screen back? I want to share something.
Yeah. In fact, that Jerry, that ends the. That was all the questions from chapter 9.
Yay!
So how's that for timing?
Check.
Okay. All right.
Chapter 9 at 9.
Hmm.
Close.
May I ask Marty how long it took you to do the
It was under a
online
half
test?
hour.
Okay.
It was under a half hour, and I was being careful. When I've been taking the practice tests, as I said, mostly on Ham Study. There's another site that I've been using also.
Yeah, I've been doing the practice test and I average right around, I don't know, 85 to 90 depending, but
You'll pass. You'll
Yeah.
pass.
That's
Okay.
thank you for that Ham Study suggestion, because I went on there and like I'm like, well, let me do a practice test to see,
Yep.
what's
Yeah.
up. And I was like, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
It's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
well, and like I said, if you're doing, my understanding is there are a couple different versions, but I signed up through Ham Study, and when I took my test, it looked just like the same formatting as the Ham Study test, just different colors. So that kind of threw me. The other thing that threw me too was, and I knew there would be 3 people watching me the entire time I took the test, which is already unnerving. But when I came into the Zoom room, there were like 5 or 6 guys on, and they were all on, and they all introduced themselves. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm interviewing for like a corporate job or something.
Right.
And once I got into the test, they all turn off their cameras. So so I'm not thinking about them. I'm just like in the flow, like I've been doing, so for me, the key was I've taken so many practice tests. It's just
yeah,
like,
that's what I've been doing.
and so like I said, I haven't had a test under 30 in forever. So,
Okay, good.
I was just feeling very comfortable. And I could go frontwards and backwards. I could click, go down. I went through the whole test I took my time. When I got back, got to the end, I went backwards through all of the questions. I did change one answer. That might have been the one I got wrong. I don't know. But I didn't, go back. I didn't ask to go back and see which ones I missed, but I just was like 434. Woohoo! All right, I didn't care.
That's
Good
great. That's great.
job.
That's great. Yeah. I
Well,
love
yeah,
the
so
by
in-
chapter
Yeah.
test.
All right,
That's
Yeah.
great.
Sabrina.
I want to, can I?
Yes.
Oh,
sorry.
go, who's
Oh.
who's talking?
Oh, Emily.
Okay,
Emily,
Emily, go
I
ahead.
really liked the ARRL practice test because I feel like that gave the best, gave really good variety of questions. And so that was good. I felt like in some of them I was just getting the same question.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
That's
it
good.
took about a day. Like I took the test yesterday and I got my call letters
Oh,
today.
what are they?
Got it.
Wow.
Em, what are they?
Same.
KFOEHQ.
KF0.
Yeah.
What's the other last three?
EHQ.
Echo Hotel Quebec. Okay,
Nice.
That's
great.
cool.
Congratulations. They're really fast. Okay, if you're looking at your screen, this is especially for Sabrina, you said you were in a hollow.
Yes.
Okay, this is called Echolink. Now that once you have your license, you can apply to get this. Echolink.org, I think it is. They require a copy of your FCC official license. You have to go back to, well, they have instructions on how to get it. You have to
Right.
go through a couple of hoops and things of that sort. Now, what you have here is a listing of all the repeaters that are hooked up to Echolink. In your neck of the woods, it's the fourth call area, and you can see all of the different towns
Yeah.
and
I'm in
states.
Middle Tennessee. But I
Okay,
have there's a really strong Middle Tennessee amateur radio that's right. I mean, they're here.
Okay.
So
Oh,
So
awesome.
if you can't
So
get
that's
into
great.
their repair, you can get in through here.
that's
And
great.
all you have to do is, let's see, let's go
Area
into
4.
WHP, I guess.
It's Tullahoma, Tennessee is where this club is. I don't
Mhm.
know about.
Okay, here's W8HP. And
Right down the road from Jack Daniels.
oh my goodness. Is it still a dry county?
It is still a dry county. Yes.
How ironical is that?
No
That's
samples.
funny.
Okay, this little thing is a link, and you can. All right, connecting.
All right. That's cool. Thank you.
And there. Then I'm supposed to send. This is W9NPI listing. And I don't hear anything. So I'm going to unlink. And you can see we're talking about all sorts of countries here.
So that's who you want to talk to, not where you're calling from.
Yeah, these are the repeaters that are linked onto here. So if I want to talk to somebody in South Africa or
That's amazing.
Austria, Armenia,
Oh,
and
that's so cool.
this is all done through a link between the internet and the repeaters.
That's neat.
And I'm planning to talk to my daughter using a repeater not too far from her, and she's not set up. She's not set up yet for Echolink, so I'll try to talk to her. She'll use her handy talkie.
So for you to initiate this, though, you need something that's going to, I don't know if they call it a node or something, but something that hooks up to your computer to get that, right?
Yes, this is a program called Echolink.
Right, but don't you need a piece of hardware too, though?
No,
No.
No.
Your
just the
laptop.
computer. Just your computer.
The
and the
URL
software.
that Jerry gave, echolink.com, there's also a smartphone app for Echolink if you want to do it on your phone.
That's
Okay.
cool.
Even better.
Whoa.
All right.
Decalink.com or .org.
You'll have to check.
Okay.
Now,
I'll-
Jerry, what about countries that show up that aren't on the US call list?
I don't think there are any.
There's Cuba.
Shouldn't.
France.
Cuba's there.
Oh, Cuba's. Okay, I don't see North Korea.
Yeah.
That's true. China.
Mhm. China's not there.
Canada.
Oh no, China is up there. I saw it.
Yeah. Saudi Arabia. That's cool.
What the heck?
Well,
South Korea.
Yeah, South Korea.
I don't think I want to
No, let's
mess
You
with
don't
that.
want anybody
No,
knocking on your door?
No, that's a can
No.
of worms. Don't do it.
No.
It'll be on a list, another list.
Okay, well,
Now,
all right.
just to clarify, Sabrina, do you live in a hollow or do you live in a holler?
Very good. Very good.
Mhm. Okay,
I
Hugh,
live in a holler.
all right, Hugh,
Good.
Bob, and I, we should, do da 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 da. Or thereabouts. Okay,
Move our
I'm going to send out my what every young ham should know, which has my prejudices about equipment and some other things. If I have the time, I'll do a little research, and if you don't have a club near you or aren't aware of any clubs near you, then try to link you together. ARRL actually has a club finder. And why don't we say that's, let's see, today is the 4th. Okay. Why not
I'd like to say thank you
the
to
15th?
everyone for doing
yeah.
this.
April 15th, April
Tax day?
15th, tax day. We might as well have some consolation. I'll send invitations out. April 15th,
awesome.
we'll have a reunion. And we can all share calls, or as you get your calls, send it to me.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, and Jerry, remind him once again about office hours.
Oh, yes, we are
In
going
case
to
you
have,
want to talk about anything,
we'll have office
Any
hours.
any chapter.
Yeah, this Sunday we'll have office hours.
And
I
it's
will
what time? I
say-
forgot. 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock Eastern
yeah.
Standard.
12
Okay.
o'clock for me.
Jerry was talking
Brandon?
about the hoopla to get the license. Just a heads up, if you go on the FCC website, it's super easy to get an unofficial copy. You don't even have to log in. That's crazy easy. But the FCC actually emailed, as part of my paperwork, my email address went in. FCC actually emailed me a link that let me download my official copy, and I have it on my computer as a PDF, and I could print it out 100 times now.
Yeah,
That's
so you
awesome.
send a copy
it's
of that
pretty
along
easy.
with your application for the Echolink, and they'll
Okay.
authorize you.
And so that was pretty automatic.
Mhm.
So that was kind of awesome.
I want to say I
Okay.
really appreciate everyone taking the time to do this.
Amen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this has been great. It really has.
Okay.
Is there a lineup of schedules of testing dates for everyone? I'd like to have couple more weeks and then at least target to take the test by the end of the month.
Okay, that would be the that website, Marty. It's
Yeah, I can pull it up. I'll put it in the chat. I just got to get to it.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just understand that they fill up in advance. So you might want to pressure yourself into a timeline if you're going to do this. That's kind of what I did was I went ahead and signed up in advance.
Okay.
Just to force myself to be ready. But there's the link, hamstudy.org/sessions. And again, I know I talked about this a week or two ago. Pay attention to the time zone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Pay attention to the time zone. because-
HST is Hawaii Standard Time.
Yeah, exactly.
And
again-
everybody take that test sooner than later so you don't forget anything.
That's
Forget-
right.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Forget what? And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? You just need a 26 out of 35, which is like a 70-something percent. So
Okay.
So
great.
Marty, now you have to study for the next one.
yes, they asked me right then, do you want to take the general right now? And I said, do I look like you?
Oh, there's some people have gone from 0 to extra.
Yeah,
They're usually the
Wow.
engineers.
yeah.
Wow.
I've only looked at one practice test for general, and literally number one, I'm like, I don't know that. So it's
Okay.
like, I'm out.
All right. So, okay, Robert, you're gonna do it next time. And send me your call
So
letters
close, so close.
when you get them.
Yep, yep.
I'll do it. All right.
Will
Thank you
do.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
And
thank
thanks
you a
for
lot.
Appreciate
Right.
it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. It's a
Good
Good
lot.
luck.
luck, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Gary, another fine job.
Absolutely.
Bob,
All your guys, all these people are going to get their licenses and they're going to pass. And you guys still got your 99% success rate.
thanks
You
a
guys
lot.
are simply the best. None better than you.
Absolutely.
Oh my,
And I'm going to come up there one day. I'm just going to walk in and say, hey, it's me.
absolutely.
And Jerry,
Absolutely.
you better watch out because Bob is the Padawan learner here. And you know, the apprentice sometimes is better than the master.
That's fine with me. That's
And,
fine with me.
Bob, I got my shot today.
Oh, good man. Good
I
man.
got
good.
it up here. I'm up north and I got it up here.
Oh, okay. I got my first shot last Friday.
All right.
Yeah,
And
I
did
did.
you,
So.
did you fix your hose yet?
Yeah, I did. And you know what? I also looked on YouTube, and replacing it is really easy.
Oh yeah, it is.
Good.
So I'm going to do that. So
You
I'm still
didn't
going to be a little weak, but it's not shooting out the side, so I can still use it. So
Yeah.
I think this weekend, if I can pick up the hose, I'll go do it. So
Okay.
thank you very much for that.
Oh,
Jerry, thank you.
if I can do anything,
Thank
you
you.
guys let me know. I'll be a good assistant to the assistant.
Great.
Okay.
Take care now.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Good night, everybody.